You think you know America. Skyscrapers slicing the sky, Las Vegas burning neon at midnight, Disney castles selling dreams by the minute. But beneath the glow, there's another America, older, quieter, and fading. It's a living archive of languages, rituals, and communities that most travelers never see and many Americans barely recognize. In the deserts of the Southwest, Navajo elders carry a language that once helped win a world war. On powwow grounds tucked far from tourist maps, drums ripple like heartbeats through the night. In horse and buggy country, the Amish keep a pace the modern world forgot, choosing simplicity in a century addicted to speed. This is America's invisible mirror, reflecting a nation that exists beyond theme parks and influencer itineraries. We're not here for postcards. We're here for proof, for the stories that survived highways, malls, and algorithms until now. If a culture vanishes, a memory of humanity vanishes with it. So in the next 20 minutes, we'll travel into the margins, sovereign nations inside a nation, island traditions beneath surf school Hawaii, frozen in time towns along the bones of Route 66. Most visitors never hear these songs, never learn these names, never notice what's slipping away. Stay to the end to see how these threads still bind America together, and what it would mean if they snap. This is not nostalgia, it's a warning, and an invitation. Look again at the country you thought you knew. The world has a ready-made script for the United States: Hollywood, Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and a cross-country road trip scored by classic rock. But that script edits out entire peoples and practices. There are two Americas running in parallel, the glossy export and the stubbornly local, where identity is carried in language, dance, foodways, and belief. The second one rarely trends, yet it's the one most at risk. Modernization doesn't erase cultures in one dramatic sweep. It wears them down in 1,000 small cuts. A store closes, a school stops offering a language class, a road reroutes the young toward cities. Tourism skims the surface, branding sacred dances as shows and ceremonial spaces as photo spots. What begins as curiosity can harden into caricature, until the original meaning is crowded out by the version that sells. Consider the contradiction. The Navajo language once secured military secrets, but today many children learn it as an afterthought. If at all, powwows are spiritual and communal before they are spectacular. Yet what reaches outsiders is often the spectacle. The Amish are photographed for their difference, even as the same forces pulling at everyone, technology, economics, aspiration, pull at them too. None of this is a museum piece. It's living, changing, and in some places, thinning. This episode doesn't chase exotica, it follows continuity. We'll ask what survives and why. The social rules that hold communities together. The places where language is still a home. The choices people make to remain themselves in a culture that monetizes attention. If America's strength is diversity, what happens when its rarest strands are weakened? And if a nation is a memory, who decides which memories are kept? We'll map 10 windows into this hidden landscape, not to freeze them in glass, but to see them as they are, present, contested, and precious. The goal is simple: understand first, then travel differently. The world remembers the Navajo Code Talkers as heroes of World War II. Their language, uncrackable by Japanese cryptographers, saved thousands of American lives in the Pacific Theater. For a brief moment, Navajo was not just a tribal tongue but a weapon of victory. Today, though, the language is in crisis. Fewer than 170,000 speakers remain fluent. And among children, that number drops dramatically. Elders warn that when the last code talker dies, the world may also lose a living library of Navajo wisdom, history, and identity. Researchers have called it a slow-motion extinction, driven by decades of assimilation policies, underfunded schools, and the lure of English dominance. The irony is brutal. A language that once secured America's future may not survive America's present. Preservation programs exist, but they struggle for funding and attention. If Navajo fades, what else in Native America will fade with it? To outsiders, a powwow might look like a colorful festival, dancers in feathered regalia, drums echoing like thunder, vendors selling fry bread. But to Native communities, it is far more. a spiritual gathering, a family reunion, a statement of survival. Every song is tied to ancestors. Every dance step a prayer. Yet most tourists never see the real powwow. International visitors flock to Coachella or Burning Man while powwows remain off the global map. Sometimes dismissed as local shows. Worse, commercialization creeps in. Performances staged for hotels or casinos strip the ceremony of its sacred weight. Native voices warn that when culture is reduced to spectacle, the meaning vanishes faster than the music fades. Still, powwows endure, often without cameras. Away from algorithms, kept alive by those who refuse to let the circle break. The Amish appear in travel brochures like a quaint attraction, horse-drawn buggies on winding roads. Men in broad hats, women in bonnets, visitors snap photos as if time itself had been paused. But beneath the postcard image lies a community under pressure. The Amish lifestyle, built on separation from technology and devotion to tradition, faces erosion from the very modernity they resist. Young people entering Rumspringa, the period when Amish teens explore the outside world, often decide not to return. Smartphones sneak into barns, and factory jobs tempt where farms once sustained. Sociologists estimate that up to 1/3 of Amish youth now leave permanently. Critics say tourism further distorts reality, turning faith into spectacle. Supporters counter that the community's resilience lies in its adaptability, not just its resistance. Still, every departure is a thread pulled from a fragile fabric. On the southeastern coast, from North Carolina to Florida, lives a people most Americans barely know, the Gullah Geechee, descendants of enslaved Africans who preserved their own Creole language, spiritual practices, and foodways. For centuries, isolation on sea islands protected their identity. Today, luxury resorts and rising sea levels threaten everything. Golf courses replace farmland, condos push communities inland, and younger generations move to cities where Gullah words fade into memory. UNESCO has recognized their culture as endangered, yet U.S. preservation funds remain scarce. The loss is profound. Without Gullah, America loses one of its few direct links to Africa's linguistic and cultural continuity. Elders say the land itself holds memory, but bulldozers don't care about memory. Tourists come for Hilton Head beaches, rarely realizing the soil they sunbathe on is sacred. Cajun today often means Mardi Gras beads, Zydeco music, or bowls of gumbo sold to tourists in New Orleans. But behind the carnival is a people descended from the exiled Acadians of Canada, who forged a new identity in Louisiana's swamps and bayous. Their French dialect, once common in kitchens and marketplaces, is now endangered. Only about 3% of Louisiana's population speaks Cajun French fluently. Industrialization of the Gulf Coast, climate disasters, and oil spills have also battered Cajun livelihoods. Cultural festivals help, but they risk flattening identity into entertainment. Still, Cajun pride endures, in family gatherings, in music halls where accordions still cry, in elders who teach grandchildren words the state once tried to erase. Yet the clock ticks. When a language dies, recipes and songs die too. Tourists in Waikiki see hula as entertainment, swaying hips, leis, and ukulele tunes. But the true hula is not a stage show, it is a sacred form of storytelling that preserves genealogy, mythology, and prayer. For centuries, chants and movements carried knowledge too precious to be written down. After Western colonization, hula was banned as pagan, nearly erased from public life. Only in the 20th century did revival efforts begin. Yet even now the commercial version often drowns the sacred. Elders worry that when hula is reduced to spectacle for tourists, its spiritual heart is lost. UNESCO has listed Hawaiian traditions as intangible cultural heritage under threat. In small hula schools, masters still teach in whispers, insisting on discipline and respect. But how long can whispers compete with resort spotlights? The Arctic conjures cliches of igloos and huskies, but Alaska's indigenous peoples, Inupiat, Yupik, Tlingit, and more, hold worlds far richer. They carry languages tuned to ice, snow, and sea, rituals tied to hunting and seasonal cycles. Today, many villages face twin crises: rapid climate change and rapid depopulation. Melting permafrost destroys homes, and young people move south for work, leaving elders behind. With each migration, another dialect, another ritual, risks extinction. Government aid often focuses on infrastructure, not culture, leaving community festivals underfunded. Some elders record oral histories, desperate to pass them on. But once a language dies in the Arctic night, it rarely returns. The vanishing here is not abstract, it is measured in collapsing coastlines and abandoned schools. Route 66 was once the main street of America, stretching from Chicago to California, pulsing with diners, motels, and neon signs. Today, large stretches are ghostly, interstates diverted traffic, factories closed, and young families moved away. In towns like Amboy, California or Glen Rio, Texas, the gas stations are shuttered, the motels filled with dust. What remains are skeletons, hand-painted billboards, rusting cars, peeling murals, that whisper of a dream that fueled 20th century mobility. Tourists still chase nostalgia, but they pass quickly, snapping photos without staying. Some estimates say over 75% of Route 66 businesses have closed permanently. Preservationists fight to save fragments. But without residents, roads become museums without caretakers. It is America's heritage vanishing in slow motion. Most imagine California as Silicon Valley or Hollywood. Yet long before either, the Chumash people thrived along its coast. Their maritime rituals, honoring the sea as sacred, are among the oldest traditions in North America. Colonization nearly erased them. Missions banned their language, outlawed ceremonies, and suppressed spiritual leaders. Today, revival is fragile. Elders rebuild tamales, plank canoes used for ocean crossings, teaching younger generations rituals almost lost. But urban sprawl, pollution, and indifference press hard. Many Californians have never heard of the Chumash, though they drive past their ancestral lands daily. Anthropologists call it cultural erasure by invisibility. The survival of their traditions depends on memory, ceremony, and a willingness of outsiders to respect, not appropriate. High in the mesas of Arizona, the Hopi keep one of the most enduring spiritual systems in America. Their ceremonies are not performances but obligations to the earth, rooted in prophecies that have guided them for centuries. Outsiders rarely witness them, and that secrecy is part of their survival. But even here, modernity intrudes. Many Hopi youth leave for cities, fewer return to take on ceremonial roles. Elders warn that if too few participate, the cycle of rituals, some requiring dozens of roles, cannot continue. Prophecies speak of imbalance if traditions fade. Anthropologists note that the Hopi worldview offers rare ecological wisdom at a time when climate crisis rages. Yet wisdom ignored may vanish like wind across the mesas. The most hidden America may be the one holding lessons we most need. From the Navajo deserts to the Hopi mesas, from Louisiana's bayous to Alaska's tundra, we've seen a portrait of America that rarely makes headlines. It is not the America of billboards and box offices, but the America that still whispers in endangered languages, dances in sacred circles, and gathers strength in rituals passed down across generations. And yet, this America is fragile. Each culture we explored is caught in the same storm: modernization, commercialization, and silence. Think of the contradictions. The Navajo tongue once protected military secrets. Now it struggles to be spoken by the young. Powwows continue to circle, but too often outside eyes see performance instead of prayer. The Amish live as if in another century, yet even they cannot escape the pull of smartphones and highways. The Gullah Geechee guard words born in slavery, but developers eye their coastlines. Cajun French survives in kitchen songs, though most Louisianans cannot understand them anymore. Hula is sacred chant turned tourist spectacle. Alaska's languages vanish with melting ice. Route 66's neon flickers to no one. The Chumash paddle to keep memory afloat, and the Hopi cling to prophecies that fewer youth are prepared to honor. These are not curiosities. They are living archives, each one a unique code for how to be human in a particular place. If they vanish, we don't just lose heritage, we lose knowledge of resilience, ecology, spirituality, and identity. America sells itself as a land of diversity. But diversity means nothing if its rarest strands are allowed to unravel. There is also a lesson here about how cultures disappear. It's not usually a dramatic erasure. It's quieter, almost invisible. A closed school, a lost language, a ceremony no longer performed. Vanishing doesn't always announce itself, it simply happens while the world looks away. That is why visibility matters. Documentary is not preservation, but it is a witness. And sometimes, being witnessed can make survival possible. So the real question is not just whether these traditions can endure. It is whether the rest of America, and the rest of us, care enough to notice. If America's strength lies in its diversity, then letting cultures disappear is not just a loss for the communities themselves. It is a loss for the entire nation, and for the world. In the end, the story of Vanishing America is not only about decline, it is about choice. Communities fight every day to keep their languages, their dances, their faith alive. The question is whether the rest of us will listen, learn, and support them before silence falls. Thank you for joining us on this journey into Vanishing America, a side of the country hidden in plain sight. These communities and traditions remind us that America is not only neon and noise, but also whispers and wisdom at risk of fading. Every culture we lose is a page torn from the human story. And once it's gone, there is no rewriting it. If you found this documentary eye-opening, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Which of these traditions surprised you the most? Your voice helps keep these stories alive. And don't miss our next episode, where we'll travel beyond the US to uncover disappearing cultures across Asia and Europe. The hidden world is out there, if we're willing to see it.